The 4.5% lie. That's the return that quietly killed luxury rentals. Not because there's no demand, but because that yield can't carry multi-decade liabilities at today's debt costs. Let that sink in. In this video, we expose how high interest rates plus non-negotiable development charges crush the model, why RioCan is largely bowing out of residential development, and how rents that softened in Toronto and Vancouver vaporized the premium tower fantasy. Watch to see the quiet exit ramp, developers morphing into consultants, offloading risk while projects stall, and how this sets up a brutal supply crunch later. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. You've heard the line, rent demand never dies. So why are the richest players ghosting luxury rentals at 4.5%? Because that number was the bait, not the meal. The pitch was simple: premium buildings, concierge vibes, cold storage for your groceries, curated lounges that smell like cedar and venture capital. Tenants would pay up, cash flows would hum for decades. Pensions and insurers would clip coupons and sleep like babies. Sounds tidy, right? But here's the catch. Post-2022, the debt stack went from background noise to lead weight.
RioCan announced an agreement to sell its stakes in 4 residential rental properties.
Some of the options we had was doing a public spin-co, doing some sort of a private vehicle, or selling the assets as we're currently doing.
Financing that once felt cheap now runs 5 to 6%. Development charges didn't blink. Municipalities rely on them, so they stayed put like a parking boot. So you're gross at 4.5%? It can't clear the hurdle rate when your money is long and your borrowing cost is higher than your cap rate. That's negative leverage. It's real. It's happening. Let's break the math down without the fluff. In the old fantasy, cap rates compress, debt stays cheap, and the spread covers mistakes. Today, it's flipped. You borrow at 5 to 6, stabilize at 4.5, and pray for rent growth to fill the hole. If rents don't escalate meaningfully, every quarter becomes a scavenger hunt for basis points. You start leaning on fee waivers, value-add claims, anything to justify the IRR that isn't there. And the rent story stalled. Toronto and Vancouver cooled right when pro formas needed heat. New condo completions dumped fresh inventory into the market, and a big cohort of international students left, shrinking the tenant pool that used to swallow $200 rent bumps like it was nothing. With more doors to choose from and fewer fast approval renters, the premium tag lost its pricing power. Landlords can list at $3,000, sure.
The transaction will result in gross proceeds of $197.3 million.
And over time, we wanted to build scale. We wanted to build scale so that we'd have a lot of options to surface value from that portfolio.
But the net effective rent tells on them. It's like buying a Tesla to save on gas. Then your electricity triples and the charger moves behind a subscription paywall. You still own a sleek asset. It just eats your wallet every month. That's a 4.5% luxury tower right now. The clearest tell is concessions. Developers can't publicly cut face rents without hurting valuations, so they sweeten the move-in. Free months, free parking, gift cards, even long-haul internet thrown in like a toaster. Data shows about 2/3 of new GTA rentals are handing out incentives to fill units. That's not marketing flair. That's underwriting screaming into a pillow. Now zoom into investor psychology. Pensions and insurers don't chase vibes. They match long liabilities with long, durable spreads. They need to know that 20 years from now, the debt costs less than the income by a margin that survives recessions and elections. When that spread evaporates, they rotate. A 10-year government bond offers a cleaner yield with no elevator repairs, no lease-up drama, and no council meeting that adds 6 figures to your DCs. If you're a CIO, this is an easy call. And development charges? They're sticky by design. Municipal budgets hardwire them. You can't negotiate fixed costs down at scale. So rent becomes the only lever left. But rent isn't cooperating.
We built up a great portfolio of residential rental properties in our RioCan Living portfolio. We did this with a view to create value for our unit holders, and we have some very, we've been able to surface a lot of value in the transactions that we brought to the table.
That's how you end up with a glossy building carrying negative leverage and a marketing budget doing cardio. So here's the thing, the 4.5% safe yield is the trap. On paper, it looked steady. In practice, debt costs and DCs ate the spread, and the rent engine sputtered right when it needed nitro. The model didn't just wobble. It lost its gearbox. If returns are broken, the obvious question is what the biggest player did when the music cut mid-dance and the floor went quiet. So what did the biggest landlord of plazas turned neighborhoods do when the yield went flat? It quietly changed jobs. Not out of housing entirely, out of being the one taking the punch on the balance sheet. Let that sink in. RioCan built the living brand to pump out premium rentals attached to retail.
Are the best way to make that value materialize, and we thought that disposition of those assets in today's current environment is the best path forward, and intensified them for higher and better uses, and that was logically mixed-use, multi-res rental apartment buildings. So we feel very good about the transactions, but we also feel very good about what we can do with the proceeds in this kind of environment.
Grocery downstairs, lounge upstairs, the whole lifestyle real. The plan was durability over decades, with amenities you could market and a community label you could scale across sites they already owned. Retail risk gets hedged, housing shortage tailwind does the rest. Clean story. Then the spread vanished. Returns drifted toward roughly 4.5%. Lenders tightened. Municipal development charges didn't budge. And the rent growth that pro formas needed came in soft. The math didn't break loudly. It just stopped adding up. You can't lever a four-handle yield with 5 to 6% debt and pretend it's stable. Not when you're managing long liabilities. Every quarter felt like searching the couch for change. So, the pivot landed. In May, RioCan basically said, we're not the bankroll for heavy refi anymore. If something gets built, outside capital supplies the cash. We bring the land we already control, plus the development machine, entitlements, design, contractor wrangling, lease-up playbook. That turns the developer into a consultant with upside, not the owner hauling the mortgage. Fewer bruises, more optionality. Here's how that works in practice. The partner writes the big checks. RioCan contributes a site next to an existing retail node, drops in the expertise, and takes a slice through fees, profit shares, or both. If yields don't clear the hurdle, they can pause without sinking 9 digits into a pit. If rates ease later, the option remains. It's like swapping from flying the plane to being air traffic control. You still guide the runway, but you're not paying for the jet fuel. Industry signals line up with that move. Early stage development activity is down hard. Even as CMHC starts still look okay because those only track what's already popping above ground. The earlier stages, the land deals, rezoning packages, drawings, have thinned out. Some consultants peg the drop near 60%. That's the pipeline quietly drying while cranes keep you distracted. And the map isn't uniform. Quebec looks sturdier, more predictable execution, a bit more resilience in deal terms. Calgary is shifting to a buyer-friendly tone, with sellers blinking first on price and terms. Victoria still shows starts, with players like Starlight pushing projects, but it's capital and micro-location specific. If your site isn't A+, the money shrugs and walks. Policy nudges help at the edges. Removing GST, HST on new rentals puts a dent in costs. CMHC's cheaper construction loans can smooth the carry. But here's the catch. Fixed municipal DCs still eat a predictable chunk, and rates keep the carry heavy. You can move a few sliders, but the big dials, yield and debt, still clash. The spreadsheet limps. This isn't tenants vanishing. It's the funding stack tapping out. When a giant stops owning the risk and starts selling the playbook, the pace of deliveries slips. That pause doesn't look dramatic today. Leasing offices still run tours, cranes still swing. But time is the enemy. Projects take years. A slow 2024 turns into a thin 2026, and thin becomes painful if demand reaccelerates. So, here's the thing. RioCan's exit ramp tells you the cycle's rules changed. Own less, advise more, wait for spreads to reopen. Which raises the next problem we have to solve together. If developers are consultants now, who actually brings the units out of the ground when the green light finally flashes?